So Werner, I think we know each other from almost like more than 1 year, but I don't know actually anything about you. I only know you as a public speaker, and that's it, and a very effective one.
Yeah,
to that. Yes.
that's true.
Yeah. So maybe Sushant can start with a little introduction.
Yeah. So I have Werner's LinkedIn profile over here, but it's in German, so I'll try to translate. So, welcome Werner to the podcast.
Thank you.
And I know Werner from being a member of Toastmasters, which is another thing we'll discuss later. And Werner is currently doing his second master's in automation technology.
Correct.
Yes, and he has done his first master's in Wirtschaftsinformatik, which is
Which is computer science and economy.
Okay, computer science and economy. Apart from that, you have your own startup also.
So yeah, I have multiple projects what I'm working on. I won't call it startup because startups always that it's already on the market and you basically can buy the things. So I call it projects, but they are very promising projects.
Okay.
So.
And last but not the least, he has written a book on job disruption, which is why we had this podcast, because we all read this book and we are very excited to speak to him. And with that, I hand over to Shrujal. He'll ask the first question.
Yeah, just to start, I just want to know about your motivations. Like, when were you first interested in this topic? And what's your background?
So my background is basically electronic and engineering. So after school, I made an apprenticeship as an electronic technician, basically, and then I joined the military. So I worked there basically for almost 10 years. And so I enlisted as a soldier, basically. And during that time, I did my bachelor and my first master degree, and now I'm currently doing my second master degree. And my motivation for technology is always be there. No, that's not correct. So the most truthful answer would be because in school I had not many friends, but I like technology.
Okay.
So and we always like to be good at something. So and I was the one which was good with technology, was good with computers, and so I spent more time doing that, and that's how the interest grow, and that's why I wrote basically the book, because it's just one step after another in that field.
Yeah, I mean, basically, those are the nerds who the founders of these tech companies, right?
Yes.
The big names that we all know. So just as a segue to the main conversation, I would first like to ask you, according to you, what's the difference between AI, machine learning, and deep learning? Because these are the terms that people throw around interchangeably, but I think there's a difference. Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So when you speaking of an AI as a marketing term or a computer science term, then it's basically every computer system you can classify as an AI, which has minimal learning capability. So when you basically input some data and it does something with data, then you can, in the computer science matter, classify it as an artificial intelligence. When it's going to machine learning, then you need algorithms which are learning on their own, basically. That you basically find patterns in a lot of data. You have machine learning algorithm, and then you find pattern in this data, and then you use that. Deep learning is basically finding the pattern on its own. So you don't know exactly what the program is looking for, but it's working at the end. So that's how I would classify the three topics.
Okay.
So to clarify a little bit more, when you see a lot of advertisement about we have this bot, which is basically you can interact with. Many marketing companies are selling it, so this voice bot or this chat bot or something like that. In this case, this is nothing to do with deep learning most of the time. So of course, there are different like Alexa or Google Assistant, which definitely using deep learning. But when you go to a normal small company and say, hey, we want to have a chatbot on our website, they call it AI, but it's not comparable with deep learning.
Yeah. So would you say like AI is something that can think a little bit more on its own than it can reason better than a normal simple algorithm? That is what is intelligence is?
So nobody knows how our brain works. So some people say that our deep neural networks that we basically create for deep learning, that they are mimicked like our brain is. But this is not true because we don't know how our brain is. So it's a simplified version of how our brain could work, but it's not working. So there is no really broad term of intelligence. So we are far, far away from HDI, which is artificial general intelligence. And so we basically have no idea how our brain is working. So we just guessing and using different models and to try which model is the best in which scenario or which problem.
So when you were researching for this book, or in general, like when you were speaking to people about this field, what application of AI or machine learning surprised you the most? Like, that made you go like, wow, this was like...
I think it's definitely generative adversarial networks, which basically are two AIs battling each other, and they are able to create deepfakes. And this is, I think, the most interesting because it's have a broad use. You can use it in media. You can also use it for speech, so that you have somebody which basically give an audiobook or reads an audiobook, and then you take the audiobook and try to create fake audio words what the person never said, but then the other AI tries to say, is it correct or is it not correct? Yeah. And so you can use it also for speech, not only for image, and you can use it basically for everything. Yeah. And this whole concept of generative adversarial networks, I think, is the most interesting one right now. Yeah. Artificial.
And I think even one of the early founders of AI, were somehow, I forgot the name, but he had made a statement saying after deep learning, GANs are like the most interesting thing that has developed in the field, and it's opening up like really big possibilities. And
absolutely, but because you see it directly, directly what you can do with it, and from the beginning, when it was created, I think it was a paper from 2014 or 2015, until now, you almost can't distinguish between a fake and a real photo, and that's only 5 years. Yeah. Imagine 10 more years down the line, it will not be possible to for a human eye to distinguish, is that a fake photo, is that a fake audio, it's not.
Yeah. But just before you came, I was showing him this website called thispersondoesnotexist.com. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I don't.
Okay, so basically every time you refresh the page, there's a GAN that spits out the image of a person. And this person doesn't exist at all, but it's a realistic image.
It's perfect for creating fake profiles on Facebook.
Exactly. He also gave a speech on this topic, right?
Yes.
Where you showed a video showing that actors also can be depicted by AI.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when you take a look today at actors, you have actors which get billions of euros. And not billions, but multiple millions, but a lot of money. But there's only 1 per mil out of a per mil which are able to achieve that. The most of the actors here in Germany are getting less than 20,000 euros per year as annual salary. That meaning they can't live from this job. And so in the future, this will be even harder because you just need basically a body double, which is performing a few actions, and then you have a neural network which basically puts the image of the star and put it on that one, and so the star gets still his money but less because you don't need to act. But that's will be the future, and because people are always going to movie because of actors and not when the actors are good, this is a money maker. So when you see, for example, a movie where Robert Downey Jr. is in, and you saw before a movie with him and was good, then it's more likely that you go in there. So and that's why they can make so much money, because people want to see them, and so for the normal actors it's really hard. So, but it's not only artificial intelligence, which is a huge problem for actors. Also, a big problem is YouTube and attention. When you're doing a podcast or when you're doing a YouTube video, then you are not going to the cinema. And when you take a look at the cinema ratings last year, they dropped immense. And this will continue, because why should somebody go into a cinema watching a movie which costs, I don't know, with 3D add-ons 10, 12 euros, and then you have also to buy food and stuff like that. And this is a lot of money. And when you have Netflix account which costs $11.99 or something like that, then you can watch whole weekends. And so it's competition. And also YouTube is for free. People watch on YouTube, and when you don't have the money to produce movies that people want to see, where should the actors go? In which movies should they participate? Because Netflix, Amazon, they have a lot of money. They have billions of euros spending on quality content. And yes, these actors were participating in that movies, they're making money. But the rest, what is doing? So it's not only the few 100-year actors who are playing in the series, so it's thousands, millions of actors, but they are not, they have a big hard time in the future. So.
Scary.
Who would have thought that actors will also have to consider AI and stuff?
But this is, for example, this is really crazy. I think when I would speak normally to an actor, a normal person, which has no idea about technology. This person has no idea that this job will be under siege in a very short time.
That's perfect what you just said, because my next question was just this, that when you interact with people who are not in the AI field, what would you say about their level of ignorance about the technology and like what's coming?
Oh, that's a difficult question, because it really depends on the person. So there are people which taking a look at technology and say, here, that's what's gonna happen. And these people are also getting media coverage. So you also see headlines that computers will take over the jobs. But the problem with that is that you have these headlines since the 70s or earlier. So when the first bank ATMs were introduced, then people in the bank were afraid, when there's now an ATM, this will lose my job. And so newspapers, because newspapers sell about headlines, so when you have a negative headline which affects many people, then people are reading it and people are buying it. So it's for them an incentive to basically make negative press. And because they did it in the past, people are getting used to it and say, okay, that's what we heard that already a few years ago. Why should this time be different? But this time is definitely be different, because our whole world is changing. 10 years ago, there was no smartphones, and now everybody is using smartphones. And this, in a short period of time, a lot of people changed their behavior because of smartphones. And also companies will change behaviors. Companies are normally slower, but they need to adjust, otherwise they will not able to compete. And when you are in an area which is 10 times cheaper when you're using artificial intelligence, then as a company you will use it. And right now we are not in the sectors where many people are working. So we have not so many actors, and we have also not so many people who basically speaking audio content in a microphone. So but what we have are jobs where translators. We have many people who are working in the transport business and the logistic, bringing one package to another company basically, and this are the big jobs. Or also working basically in a supermarket. That are the really the jobs where many people are working, and of course, when you can save 50% of the cost for transportation when you're using self-driving cars, every company
It's
will
the most
use
logical thing to do.
Yeah.
But people also, so what should a truck driver do today? So he needs to start today with developing new skills, because when he's starting in 5 years, or 6 years or 7 years, when he is basically suffering from the consequences, that's too late.
That's too late, yes.
And that's coming back to the question with the ignorance. I think one part of the ignorance is that people are here that before, and the other one is people don't understand what's behind it. So they don't understand why it's this time different and which technologies are in place. So they not everybody is a technician. Not everybody has a broad understanding. So when you are working, for example, in a supermarket, then it's hard to imagine that technology is basically changing your job, because this is what people always did. They went in a supermarket, put the stuff they bought, and then they pay at the end. And this paying process where somebody is needed to check if everybody what the person bought, this was always there. There is no relation to how it could be different. But it will be here and will be it will be here in a very short time. Best example is McDonald's. I think McDonald's did an amazing job to change the whole process, because 2 years ago or 3 years ago, you always needed to act with a person in order to order something. Today, there in each big McDonald's, you have terminals where you go in, and then basically you order at the terminal, which has many advantages. Not only it's saving money, it's also giving you a lot of data. You see what a person is clicking on. Is somebody choosing between? You can make different user interface. You basically can say, okay, here this group is seeing this image in the beginning, this person is there. How is the click-through rate? And you can optimize basically that, because you get a lot of data. When you have normally a person interacting, what do you buy? I don't know what I want to buy today. So you don't get this data. And McDonald's realized that as one of the first companies and changed their whole process, and it was definitely the right thing to do. This is only the beginning.
You can also order from the app, like you don't even have to go to the store.
Absolutely.
Like you can order on the way to the store and just pick it up and...
Exactly,
And with the phone, you get even more data of the GPS and location.
Absolutely.
I've been to some bars in Mumbai where you have to order drinks with the application. So
and even like in the grocery stores, I mean, they have these self-checkout counters.
But people not often using them, especially here in Germany. It could be a German thing that people don't like to do that, because we are all creatures of habit. So we do what we always did. Basically, when you are seeing there's a new self-checkout terminal, and you have there normal person, then it's a question: do I go there? I don't know how it's working, or do I do what I always did? But
I love the self-checkout. As a kid, I always wanted to do this job, and like now I get to do it. So I was like very happy to.
Once when I was in a hurry, and there was a long line at the. With a human was there, so I just went to the side and I just read it myself, and I took out the thing, and I paid with card. So it makes everything easy.
You did that only once?
Only once I went to that place where that service was available, because it was at another location.
But I think your point on McDonald's was also perfect. With our next point was basically like, what mistakes do you think like small businesses are prone to making when it comes to this eventual shift into AI? And because for example, even in the book you mentioned about Blockbuster and Netflix and how they completely underestimated this thing. So do you think that again it's like human psychology to not be able to understand like how disruptive it is, and you will always have those like a small group of companies who see it early enough and capitalize on it, and most of it, because they always say also that development is always exponential, so it's like very slow for a long time and then it jumps up. So yeah, anything around like these.
So I think this is a very hard question because when you take a look, for example, at the iPad, Microsoft released 10 years before that basically a mini tablet version of that, but the population wasn't ready for it. It was not the right moment of time. And for each technology is the right moment of time absolutely crucial in order to be successful. For example, Google Glass. I think it will be in the future that people use head-up displays, but at this moment of time, people are getting scared of that people are running around with a camera and a head-up display. So it's not the right moment in time, and it's the right decision not to release it. And it's always important to take a look at the market, how it is adjusting. Are people switching? Are people going from one thing to the next? For example, now I think mobile payment or stuff like that will get a huge boost also here in Germany. Before we used always traditional cash, but this will also change because everybody has a smartphone with them and it's getting easier. You just basically hold it there, and so you have multiple advantages. It's easier, it's easy, it gives you an advantage regarding time, and easy, you don't need to calculate your money, you don't need to get to the bank. And when you have enough advantages, people would switch. But they will not switch because they think it's a great idea. Some people will do that, but the majority will always do what they always have done, except when it's something which makes their life better and they see the advantages. And for that, the right timing is absolutely crucial, and that makes it so difficult. I don't think that the big companies have not enough innovative ideas, but there's one moment of time where you need to go all in on the new stuff, and when you don't do it, you go out of business, but when you do it too early, you also go out of business. So it's a very hard decision.
So one needs to have a deep understanding of the technology, the market, the economics, and the human psychology as well, right? And I think small companies might not have access to one of those domains, maybe.
But small companies have one huge advantage, and it's the speed.
That's
they
true.
react very quickly.
So they can easily adjust to new things. When you have a huge process where you need basically to follow a lot of regulations, then it's really hard to change the process. But when you're a small company and say, here, now we change it, let's take a look at small restaurant. And we have now a small restaurant and we change now our caching system and going to iPad and mobile payment. So, and the ordering process will also be done over the systems via smartphones. This is a very easy to adapt, but when you have a huge company which has multiple processes, it's really hard to implement the new things. So small companies have an advantage, but they have also a big disadvantage, that is money. So
and also the lack of data sometimes.
But I wouldn't say data is a big problem. In which case would data be a big problem? Because today you can also collect your own data, so it's not that hard to collect data, and you can use the algorithms of Google and use the cloud services of Google or Amazon and processing that data. So you don't need the huge investment. You can just use the technology.
No, but what if someone wants to compete with Amazon or Google itself on the search engine? Right?
It's not possible, but this is a different reason. because when Microsoft, I think, is currently the most valuable company in the world. At least they were last month. I don't know today, but that is a company which has the highest market capitalization right now, and they have no chance competing against Google on their search engine. It's not possible because of the network effect. Because Google will getting smarter every time you're using Google. When you're doing a search query, then you're clicking on an object. You're going out of it and say, no, that's not the right one. You're clicking on the next. And when you stay there and when you find what you needed, then you don't search, continue search. And all this information is going back to Google and improving their search algorithm. And when you have now a new basically search engine like Microsoft, you don't have the data to compete.
Sure, exactly.
And this is not possible at all. The only thing how you can compete is when you do something radical new, when you make an innovation. Google was an innovation. The page rank algorithm was an innovation before it was basically like a manual selection, and the page rank was okay. How relevant is this page? How many other pages are linking to that page? And because this was an innovation, it was completely new technology. It was better, and you see it, for example, with DeepL. DeepL is better than Google and Microsoft in translation because they're doing two innovative things. And as a small company, you can compete, but you need to have an innovation. Otherwise, you have no chance.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so
Take a break?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, so Werner mentioned me that like he translated his book using DeepL. Right?
DeepL,
You
right.
Yes.
wrote your book in German and you had English
Exactly.
translation using DeepL.
So this is why it was very funny because Sushant, you asked me if I have an English version, and I planned to have an English version in, I don't know, 6 months or something like that. So just out of the blue, I uploaded at DeepL, translated it, and I was reading through that, and I was like, that's good.
That's not bad. Actually, after I read his book, I complimented on the translation. I said, the translation.
That was translated.
Yeah, the translator did a very
They
good
sent
job.
me the ebook and I read it and I told them, like, I mean, I knew a lot of the examples, but I was like, this is a really well written book. And
So so basically I did the translation. Of course you have errors in the translation. So what I did basically, I hired 2 proofreaders who went over that. But we need to calculate about money here. So English proofreader is really cheap. So for the book, which I don't know, 50,000 words or something like that, it was 250 euro proofreading it. So it is really cheap in order to do that. But having a translation from German to English, it costs the 10-fold of that amount of money. So basically, using DeepL, having 2 proofreaders going through that, and they making comments, and so there were not many comments. And I asked the proofreader how would they rate the translation, because they have a lot of text. And the first proofreader said that he would give it a 9 out of 10. So there were a few hiccups, but overall it was a good translation. And I asked him, would he imagine that it was translated machine? He said, no way in hell.
I think we're gonna hear that expression more often in the future.
But I mean, this is for companies. This is a huge money saver. So many companies need translation. It's $1 billion market, and when you just need somebody who is proofreading it, it's way cheaper than somebody who having in translation.
And related to this, so or maybe on a slightly different trajectory, is I personally think that universal basic income is the way forward. At least in the transition period until we have a new generation of people capable of working there. So I wanted to know where you stand on universal basic income, and then anything specific about UBI in Germany.
Okay. My standpoint on it, it's difficult.
Okay.
Difficult because it is the right thing to do. We need something like that in order to protect the people. But just giving people money will have the opposite effect. We see now in America and other countries that for the first time in history that the life expectancy is going down.
Yeah.
And the life expectancy is going down. People drug themselves, they overeat, and stuff like that. So people, when they have too much freedom, it's not good. And when you have the freedom of getting money every day, not working for it, and basically sitting at home, people getting depressed because they have no sense in life, because people need to have challenges. They need to have something which they feel good at. And when you take that away and you don't give anything to that, this is really, really dangerous in my opinion. So I would do a different approach. I would basically giving money out basically on conditions. So conditional basic income. That meaning when you're doing something good like going in a club and basically which has social benefits that we basically not, which is a social beneficial factor for the city or for people in general, where people can go and have a nice time, and you are working there and helping organizing some stuff, talking to people like Toastmasters for example, then you should get more money than when you don't do that. So I would put it on a condition how do you behave in general, and when you're learning something, when you basically learning a new language, then you should get more money. So when you basically put education in yourself, that this should be awarded. So I would put conditions on it, but of course there needs to be something like that people get a safety net. There's no doubt about that. But just giving people money, it will be really, really dangerous. You see it in a few countries already that the life expectancy is going down, and this will be increased dramatically because people are drinking more alcohol, eating more unhealthy, and as they're doing now because they have no purpose, and when you don't have purpose and driven, then you do silly things like drinking alcohol or watching whole day Netflix. Don't do anything else.
And is there any UBA scheme in Germany specifically?
No, so here is nothing planned at the moment. All political parties don't go at this topic. From the ultra left to the ultra right, no party in any case saying that's a good idea. So from the party standpoint, so we won't see it for the next 5 to 10 years. We won't see it. So maybe in 5 or 10 years that they will talk about it, how to implement it, but not right now, because now we have the least unemployment since 10 years. I know it's a little bit getting high, but from an unemployment standpoint, we are really, really good. And, so there's no need.
Have you heard of this U.S. presidential candidate Andrew Yang?
I heard about it, and he framed it different. He framed
freedom
it.
dividend.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's smart. That's really smart.
But I mean, I think so. You're the same thing, right? You don't agree that just giving, because his major plan for becoming the US president, he's the only politician who recognizes automation as the one displacing job and not immigrants. And he says the solution is that we tax Amazon and Google for every Google search that Google makes money of. They get a cut of that goes back into the economy through this freedom dividend of giving $1,000 a month to every American citizen 18 years and above, no questions asked. And he was saying that $12,000 a month is not enough to live on. He says it's below the poverty line in US. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be quoted on this, but he was saying that it's just the right amount of money so that it gives you a little bit of cushion, but you cannot rely on just this money to sustain yourself. Like, you have to go out and do more. And he was saying that once people get money in their hands, they are more incentivized to spend it, so the economy keeps running. Somebody wants to start a bakery, they now, they wait for 6 months, they build up some, some savings, and that boosts up. So he's saying that universal basic income would lead to a trickle up economy where money gets recirculated from the grassroots and then it goes up on that.
My point on that, he will never win with that because it's not the right moment of time. So there will be a candidate who is winning on that, but not yet.
Okay.
So it's like I said before with Microsoft and with Apple, and the right moment in time is crucial. And I don't feel it in the popularity in the population that people are saying I want to have it now. And many people who are basically are threatened by technology, they don't want that their neighbor is getting money for free. Or somebody, an immigrant is getting money for free. They would never accept that, basically. But these are the people who basically benefit most. But they say, no, he would get it, and I worked my whole life, and he just gets the money. So I think the moment of time is not the right one for that. And the other point. You mentioned that he will tax Google and Amazon.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. It's not going to happen.
He didn't say it directly, but he wanted to introduce a VAT. So US at the moment, he says it doesn't have a VAT, and so that way it's like any business that wants to transact in US will have to pay a VAT, and that VAT.
But here's the problem in Germany. When you have a company, and then you have on the other side you have stuff you sell where you're getting money in, but you also need money to produce something. And for the stuff which you're producing it's not taxed. Basically, when I buy now from you something, then I don't pay tax on that. So I only add the tax at the end, but getting the money back where I pay taxes for you, so that you don't have this multiple taxes accumulating each other. But here's a problem. We have now a digital company, and this company said our patents are in Ireland, Switzerland, and this is how how we creating wealth, and so the patent. So we need to pay a license fee to Ireland, to Switzerland, and when we pay the license fee, then of course money is going away out of the country. You cannot tax it because it's basically your bills you pay, and this is something really hard to control because all digital stuff you can basically with one click, everything is in a different country. When you put the servers in Ireland, then the servers are in Ireland. And this.
So how would you say should governments approach this whole thing of data, and like, do we treat it as a commodity like oil, or?
What I would love to have is that each company needs to release their data, so the data will be free for everybody.
I had written something similar as well, but
So I would love to have that, but it will never happen. Not never, but it will not happen in the near future in Germany, because of course the companies don't want to do that. The companies will do lobbying stuff against that, but also the Germans are very data protective, and people don't like that other people know stuff about them. But I wrote in my book, I think 10 or 15 pages only about data privacy, and my conclusion is there will be no data privacy in the future. And when we're giving data to everybody, we can treat so many illnesses. We can help so many people because it's very hard to find correlations and patterns in illnesses. But when you have a lot of data, it's very easy to find correlation. Then say, is that the cause? Is that correct? But you need to have the data. And medical data is one of the most secured here in Germany. But the people who are having cancer, they don't care if the data, they want to get healthy, but all people who are healthy are worry about it. I think that's
Yeah.
ridiculous, but that's the standpoint.
I mean, this was exactly what I read. I mean, I just had this idea as why not create like a blockchain system where all the data and this blockchain exists between the user and the ISP. So it's one layer between the user and the ISP, and every data that the user, every action initiated by the user gets recorded on this blockchain. Maybe it's anonymized, and every time any company that wants to access the data has to access it through this blockchain. And so the blockchain sort of ensures a little bit of trust and maybe anonymization, I'm not sure, but maybe this could be something where so now what happens, every time Google uses the data, that is recorded on the blockchain, and then it can be said like, okay, so this person gets a little bit of like 1 cent or something like that. And so you can ensure payment, you can also ensure publicly available anonymized data for everybody. So tomorrow, even if a company, like I want to start a company and I want to understand user search behavior, it takes out that competitive edge from Google as well, and now it's more about the human skill level in building the algorithm, and it's a more of a level playing field.
So two points you mentioned. First is the payment. Why people are giving the data for free? Because they want to have information.
Yes.
They want to know basically where's the nearest restaurant and stuff like that. So giving money for that, I don't think the company can afford that. Basically, when people are willing to give it for free.
I'm saying is like, Google on average makes about $2, $5 a click, and even if they put like 0.05% of that back, so it's some. My thing is like, because we are losing the privacy, maybe it makes sense that we get something in return for it.
But when you calculate what basically they earn per quarter and put it down on the billions of people using it, it will be $4 or something like that per person. It won't be a lot. But the other thing is, you said using blockchain in order to have the transparency that all the data is valid, but it's the opposite of anonymity. Thank you. Because when you are now using, for example, Bitcoin, you can basically go and take a look who basically transferred money from which point to which, and when you basically taking out money out of when you changing Bitcoin to real money, then they can exactly see where the money comes from. What they did in the past, there was called I don't know exactly how the term. They were basically multiplexing transaction. What they did is basically they collected many for many people different collections, and then they transacted the money internally, but you didn't know basically from which person it came, so they all transacted to that to one entity, and the entity transacted them to 2,000 others, but the FBI and other organizations didn't like what they did, so they got shut down pretty hard. But when you say you will record every interaction, what a smartphone does, for example, and we store it in a blockchain, this data is the opposite of giving any anonymity at all, because you only need a few data points to find out what kind of person it is. I give you another example how advertisement is using basically target people. We have here a MAC address. Every time when we scan basically for Wi-Fi networks, our smartphone is transmitting our unique number. So the iPhone, with the Apple said, okay, we want to protect our users. So we, when you're not logged in a network, then we change this MAC address on a permanent basis, so that people which are in supermarket cannot store which person is now now a person which is coming every 2 or 3 days. Is this a new customer? So Apple wanted to prevent that. Which makes sense, and from on the other hand, to track the behavior, is that the person which is coming more often, or is this a new person? I think this is data you want to have, and on the other hand, Apple say, okay, we want to protect our users. The problem with that is when you change the MAC address, it's not the only thing which giving information about you. For example, what's unique in every smartphone is the list of Wi-Fi networks you are connecting to. So when you are going to an airport, you're connecting to that one. This is stored. When you are at home, this is stored. And the list of networks you're connecting is also a fingerprint to localize.
That is smart.
But in order to show that you need only very specific data points in order to find out which person it is. And when you now have a central blockchain database which all the transaction, it will be very, very easy basically to pinpoint exactly to the person who is doing that.
My only point of putting it on the blockchain is maybe that's one attempt to regulate misuse of data. Like for instance, if you say all data should be public and there's no tracking of who's putting the data and who's taking the data out of this, say, data bank, then there is that risk that some stalkers can come and the robber is planning, okay, you just left your house, I can, go into your house and break in and things like that. But if now the government sets up a regulation which says that all data on the internet must happen on this blockchain, then even if, so say you want to use it for cancer healthcare or for running your IoT devices, that's good, that's a regulated thing. But say a stalker is also using that, then we can track the stalker on the blockchain and
you can't, because blockchain is open for everybody. When the blockchain technology is working like that the whole database is basically stored on many different computers. And when you have the whole database, you basically can take a look on it offline and say, okay, I just make a copy of the database and take a look at it. So this will not prevent the misuse you mentioned.
But so do you have like any other possibilities of how we could?
I think people should get used to it, that in the future they will have no privacy. So, and no, I'm dead serious. I'm 100% dead. Let's take a medical example. When we have now a conversation, which is recorded here, and I will have in the future a conversation, which is also recorded, and an AI can basically see, oh, there is different patterns in it. Maybe he has now Parkinson because he is speaking a little bit different. And this is a very intimate health information which you can get out of the data because the information is there. When something is happening in your brain and you're not working functionally, this will be recorded. And all this is small tiny bits of information is saying something about you, and this is something you cannot control. If you are a political person which is having interviews every day, and you have now an AI which can basically detect Parkinson from speech patterns, and you use that AI on a data set from Angela Merkel or something like that, then you can see is something there. And this is something everybody can do, and there is no privacy at all in the future because we are recording basically now everything. Instagram, Facebook, and every information we give out from ourselves is one tiny information which has a big picture about ourselves, and everybody can see that. Of course you can say, no, I don't use WhatsApp, I don't use that, but in this case, you're also revealing something about yourself because you're saying data privacy is something I really value. That's because I don't give the information out, and the lack of information is also saying.
It's also information.
Exactly. So
no, I'm with you on this. I'm fine giving away the privacy, but my thing is, how do you prevent misuse?
There's no possible of prevention misuse.
In this case.
data is open to everybody right now, basically. So people are sharing information on Instagram, and people always can use that. And we don't have a leak right now. So Google never got hacked, Facebook never got hacked. But just imagine somebody make a copy of all your Google searches and release the database from, I don't know, from 3 billion people who are using Google, and the whole Google search with the ID of the person will be released. This will be game over for nearly every political person, because this is... You're looking for health results. You're looking for that, and all this information is stored.
I mean, NSA is already storing it.
Of course.
That was my next question. As in,
of course,
law enforcement agencies.
Of course, they store that data. But we are now talking about private companies, and every private company will sooner or later have problem with hacking. So Sony had it in the past, and they got. I mean, Google has the most intelligent people on the world on that problem. So, but where's the guarantee that this will not happen in 10 or 15 years? So many people were outrageous about Cambridge Analytica and Facebook, but this was only a normal use of the Facebook services.
Exactly. It was completely legal. I mean, I think the way they got the data was in question, but what they did with the data was completely.
So basically, somebody set up a page where people can basically get their personality rated, and people used that, and they took the data, and then people took also the data of the friends from them, because and so they had 200,000 people were using it, and everybody has, I don't know, 200 friends, and then you are 50 million data.
Exactly.
And this was completely in the service, and today in the Congress people are how data breach and the security, but they don't get it. That was a normal.
They opted in to give the database.
And everybody who is putting data on Facebook or Google do it voluntary. But I mean that's another thing. The political people, I love to watch the Congress hearings of where they question Mark Zuckerberg and and so it was really nice to see that the people have no clue at all about technology, and this is also showing about society. Every data is already gone, and people now try to implement regulation stuff, but it's way too late, because you can get everything out of the data. I wrote in my book the most amazing studies I found on getting data through the wall. So that basically that is I think MIT and Columbia, I don't know, MIT and some other university, which basically used the Wi-Fi signal and tried to teach the AI to see through the wall, because our body basically reacts on Wi-Fi signals, and you can basically see through the wall how somebody is moving in the room, and the other university did it with smartphones. Basically used the smartphone Wi-Fi signal and measured, because every router is using every 100 millisecond pulse, and when you moving through the room, then this pulse which is going when it's 360 degrees, has a reflection, and when you just looking for those reflections, then you can basically have a super good picture.
I think this is before everything gets connected to the internet with the Internet of Things.
Exactly. So 5G, where every small device will have internet access, and this is technology which is possible today. And I'm sure that in 10 years, when there was misuse of that, then there will be an outrage. But it's 10 years too late, because the technology is already in place. And it's over. So there is
No, I see your point completely. Yeah.
There's a scene in Batman where like Mr. White uses that technology to trace the whole day.
But exactly.
Yeah,
And this is
like
working.
Yes.
Right now.
Yeah.
So Google could easily implement that,
Yeah.
basically tracking the people in the room,
Yeah.
because they have access to the chip data, and
I mean, the NSA is probably already doing it, right? The moment you say certain
Yeah,
keywords.
I wouldn't say that the NSA is doing everything what you see in movies.
But
Let me explain you why. Because I work in a governmental facility, and governments are fucking slow. So until they have implemented something, it takes a while.
But I mean, this was one of the things that Snowden leaked, right? They have this program, I forgot which one, maybe the Prism or something else, where it listens to phone conversations and it's looking for keywords. So, say like somewhere you're joking about bombing the White House, that gets flagged and just recorded in this thing. Tomorrow, something happens where they want to observe you better. They pull up your file, and every instance of suspicion is just brought up as a one click of a button. They have that entire data on you in that thing.
Yeah, of course the data will be stored, but to have the data stored and to make sense out of data are two completely different things, because you need a lot of computer power to processing the data. So just storing the data is not gonna help you when you have now from 80 million German people the data. Good luck with sorting the everything. But I mean, computers are getting faster and better, and in the future this will be possible, no problem. I have no idea how spies will do it in the future. I really have no idea. When you have in China, for example, people are paying with their face or something like that, how do you get a spy inside a country? I think.
No, I think it will become covert, right? You would try to intercept the satellite and you would try to compromise their network infrastructure. I think the way wars will happen will shift.
Yeah, that's common.
I mean, just send a drone, right? Why do you want to send a person? So
it makes sense. But I mean, a spy is not only influencing people, like making decisions.
Yeah, I mean, what Cambridge Analytica did, right? I mean, you can sit somewhere else in the world.
Here's the thing with Cambridge Analytica. There's no proof that it really worked. Yes, you see an advertisement, but did you really vote for Trump just because you see the advertisement? Or is there other reasons? So there is no statistical evidence that this Cambridge Analytica changed the election.
Yeah.
So, and this is Obama used in 2008 and also social media, and Hillary Clinton paid way more money on social media for doing that. So they're both using that. I mean, the problem with Cambridge Analytica was that the CEO was bragging so much about it that that newspaper basically say, here, what the hell is going on? Yeah. Because for him it's marketing. I mean, when you say, hey, Donald Trump won because of us, it's a lot of people say, hey, what do you have? You have amazing technology, I want to buy it. But he oversold it, basically.
That actually I never thought about that.
So so there's a great book. What was the name? Why Everybody Lies, I think. Or Everybody Lies, and so it's basically a book of data analytics, and this.
Everybody lies.
Yeah.
Big data, new data, and what the.
Yeah, exactly. So in this book, he analyzed Google Trends data, also regarding to Hillary and Trump, and the insights of the book is that. Why Trump won? That's not necessarily because of Cambridge Analytica, because of people believed in him, and he spoke to people, and so you get amazing data results. Also, basically how people are if people are voting for them, then they are searching for Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. If you are more likely to vote Hillary, you put in Hillary versus Donald Trump, because you put your candidate first, and that's amazing data resulted in where you can make good predictions how it, and when people are asked in question, and that's the whole book about, people lie. When people were questioned, how much do you donate to that and that thing, people are always overselling what they really do, because what people are claiming to do and what people do are different things. And when you ask people who you vote for, and people are, maybe I'm undecided, or will vote for Hillary because this is maybe what the other person wants to hear, and in secret they vote for Donald Trump. And when you put it in the Google search result in secret, like Donald Trump was, and this is unconscious that you put, but it's telling something truthful about you, and it's more realistic than just asking people. So I think it's a really interesting topic, and I don't think that just because you have access to the data that you will be able to manipulate people based on that data. I think it's a really, really hard process.
But they have documented that now it's like scientifically documented that using social media rewires your brain, because it's exploiting these things in psychology to get you addicted so that you come onto the platform. And there was also one Facebook study which Facebook themselves did, where they decided to just manipulate the feed, what is shown to the people, and they had measurable statistics to show that the mood was, influenced by what people read.
But there's a big difference between changing your mood on changing behavior. When I now insult you, and I get the right topics, I'm pretty fast in changing your mood. But changing your behavior, it's a completely different story. So I mean, you, of course, and I and you, we all making goals, what we want to achieve. But from the moment we make the goals and achieving the goal, that's totally different. So it's very hard to change our own behavior, and it's also for another third party very hard to change behavior. And the other and the opponent of them have also the access to the same tools. So everybody can basically get your likes on Facebook and advertise against your likes, basically, and then the ultra left or the ultra right both can access the data and use it. So
it's like what Samsung does, that whenever there's an Apple phone launch, if you search for Apple, it shows a Samsung ad in this thing. So they're literally targeting all these Apple.
Interesting. There was a court decision based on that Google or Amazon is not allowed to do that anymore. So when you search for something, then you are not allowed to basically see a link to a competition. So it was recently. It was 3-4 weeks ago. Amazing. But.
Okay. I've seen people usually use DuckDuckGo and not Google.
But what's the advantages of using DuckDuckGo? I mean, when you're using DuckDuckGo, then people also know you're using DuckDuckGo, and so they'll see something about you.
And our next section was more on something specific to Germany.
Yes.
And this was something that I was super disappointed with, because I hate cash. I don't see the point in carrying cash when you have all these technology. So before coming to Germany, I bought a new phone in India, and I thought I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna link up my bank account, and it's gonna be really cool. I can use it. And mobile payments just started maybe few months back in Germany, maybe 6 months back or something. So Germans, I would say, are maybe paranoid is too strong of a word, but
I like paranoid.
Okay.
No offense.
I was going with conservative, but
So, do you think that, I personally feel that regulations that Germany has is, I mean, like instance for GDPR, for instance, that the websites have to ask for my cookie count. One day I just said, okay, what happens if I switch off all the cookies? I just get a message saying, if you want to watch the video, please turn the cookies on. Like it doesn't show me the content that is there.
Yeah.
So, do you think this is going to negatively affect Germany in this AI race, or?
First,
Are
one
they shooting
comment on
themselves in
the
the foot?
paranoid German. What you said, you would go with conservative, and I think this is a really interesting thing, because people are getting more conservative the older they become, basically. And we are in Germany one of the oldest population in Europe. I think we are 45 in average. So and also you see that in elections, basically. The people under 30 are less than people over 65 or something like that from the point. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's close to the numbers. And people who are younger are more open. You see it, for example, in the Brexit or Donald Trump voters, that people who are younger have opposite viewpoints of older people. And because we are here in Germany, have an older society, then they are less open for new innovation like smart phone payment and stuff. I'm really surprised that we have so many smartphone users here in Germany. But I mean, I'm an early adopter. I like new technology, but I'm absolutely the minority here in Germany. Many old people don't like to change their behavior. So so I don't see it as a surprise that you have, for example, Kenya in Africa, where you can basically pay with your smartphone. They don't have electricity, but they have the solar batteries which are working and paid by mobile smartphones. And because they have a very young population, it's easier to adapt. I think that's one of the main reasons why Germans are so conservative, and because of the age, and maybe it's also the culture that we are more closed and not so open. So there are countries which are much more open. I think the United States, from when you're talking to people, they are much more open than Germans. Germans are very, don't talk about money, don't think so. No, but let's go to the other question, GDPR. If it affect negative. I think the GDPR is something which is not German based, it's Europe based.
Correct.
So every state in Europe needs to follow the GDPR, and I think the GDPR will have no effect at all, because nobody is reading the information.
Absolutely.
So people get annoyed, and people get annoyed to click on.
It's like, do you accept terms and conditions? Yes.
Yeah.
And then
I was actually thinking one day, I just want to install a browser extension that just clicks OK, I accept for me the moment the page loads. But I don't want to drag my mouse and click on that.
Exactly, it annoys people. And this GDPR is only the first step. They want to have the e-privacy, which is basically one step higher, because then you are not allowed to link data fields to services. So what you said, okay, you cannot watch the video when you're not accepted. This will not be possible with GDPR 2, let's call it GDPR 2, so it's e-privacy is the official name, but it will not go through. So and people getting annoyed, because then the only thing what will change is that people getting 1 millionth yes question, where they click on, do you want this, or you can click here, yes to all, or no, and go to each immuno. People have no incentive going to that. So companies always find a workaround. So that's okay. If you don't want to give all permission, you have to manually select each other. And that's what companies will do, and it will have no effect at all. So this is basically a European way of counter what is happening in China. We see in China we have no data privacy, and we have even one step further, the government is using the data to controlling the population. I'm 100% sure this will happen here in Europe as well.
Yeah.
It will only take a few years longer, but we will have that too.
But do you think this attitude is setting themselves up for failure? Because now would probably be the time to invest in infrastructure to collect data and all of that, but they're moving away from that. And so maybe when the time comes that companies want to use AI, there are competitors in the market that have already got their products out with tracking and things like that.
This is a super difficult question because it's not clear. On the other hand, it's of course a disadvantage. When you have less data, then you are less good. But on the other hand, it makes you more creative to get data to use it in different ways. And this creative way of solving problems when you have other obstacles, it may lead to other solutions. So, for example, when you take a look at SpaceX. SpaceX is basically developing everything new or in-house, which restrictions you have only 1/10 of the money what it normally costs. And they, in order to develop a project which has the same possibilities to achieve the goal, but only costs 1/10 of it, you need to have a new idea. You need to do it differently, and from this can create innovation. And if it creates innovation which are working positive, then it can work. It can also backfire on the negative way. So it's not a yes or no question. It really depends on the case. So it can have positive, but most likely, my personal opinion, it will have negative. I think China will win everything.
And what do you think about like self-driving cars in Germany? Because I find it not crazy that Germany will actually be one of the later countries to actually adopt those technologies.
I disagree. I disagree because we have we are exporting stuff, and exporting cars is one of our main exporting stuff, except of basically manufacturing machines, basically. But cars is one of, we have BMW, we have VW, and we have many small companies who are working for the big car manufacturers, and the car manufacturers know exactly what's happening. So because Google is winning the market, and when Google is not stopped, there is no way back. So it's the same with Microsoft and Google right now. When Google will be the first one on the German market, which has the opportunity to bring people from A to B, the market will be lost forever. Because the company who is first and who is doing a great job. For example, in Alaska and California, Google is allowed to basically drive without a driver. You get data from that, which is a huge benefactor, and the second is it gets trust. When you have a system which is working for 5-6 years and people are using that and nothing happened, then why should you trust a new VW or a new BMW self-driving car when you can use the Google, which you know it's working and it's the best? Because it's easy to see from the outside who is the best car. You see the behavior, cars driving around, and how cars reacting to that. There will be videos, there will be comparison, and you see when some car is reacting bad or when some car is reacting good. And the one which has the best technology, more people will use. And more people will use it, they have more data, so it's a building up system which is increasing over time, and it's not stoppable. And that's why we need here in Germany car maker friendly regulation, and because they are strictly tied to political parties, so the for example VW, the state NRW, in this Niedersachsen, has parts of VW. So basically the state is invested in the company, and so they are tied together and they will implement rules soon, because if they don't do it, they will be lost.
Yeah.
And the car manufacturers know that. So they are not dumb. They know exactly. They see what's happening all over the world.
Yeah.
And if they don't do it, then there's no going back.
Also, companies are investing in the infrastructure. For example, maybe you know about Share Now, where Daimler and BMW has collaborated to build up this infrastructure, to build up the charging stations inside the city. They provide services like parking services online, and I think there will be a future where you can see like self-driving cars.
Yeah, no, my exact thing was just this, that Tesla already has like so many billion real world data for their training. So does Waymo. Waymo crossed, I think, 1 billion or something like that. And maybe it could just be my ignorance, but I've not heard like BMW come out and say we have crossed this milestone.
So the chief of VW said that they are 2 years behind Google.
Exactly.
And when you are CEO of a company, you always try to formulate things in the best way for the company.
Yeah.
And when you're saying you are 2 years behind the competition, it's probably more 5 to 6 years. I mean,
I understand.
Yes.
And the other fear that I had is because a lot of these technologies are, like the self-driving car is mostly going to be electric. It's not really going to be combustion. And the Germany's biggest strong point was the combustion engine and this thing. So maybe they're also a bit lagging behind in the electric car.
They definitely do. I think Tesla is leading, and Tesla is leading because they deserve to lead. Yeah. So the car is from the interface better. It has self-driving car sensors, and it has cameras inside, and they deserve to lead the sector in America. Yeah. And I think here in Germany, many people don't care about electric cars. It is increasing, but not a lot. But when you see people who buying a Tesla, it's kind of an ideology. Yeah. People say, okay, I'm smart, I'm successful, and I'm
eco-conscious.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more branding image, and this branding image is the same with Apple, which we had 10 years ago. Yeah. So people bought Apple products because they bought it because they want to feel better than the.
It's a statement,
it's a statement, and when you buy for today, basically VW or BMW, it doesn't say anything about you. But when you buy a Tesla, it says something about you, and that is, I think, a real danger for the. I don't think that they can not compete with the technology. I think they can, but they cannot compete with the branding because when you see the big rocket Falcon Heavy and they shoot basically a Tesla, every media coverage covered the Tesla in space, and this branding is so important. Donald Trump won the whole election on branding, and you need to have this free media coverage. And VW is spending, I think, 6 or 7 rank in the world for spending most on advertisement in the world. Is VW ranked 6 or 7. And the other one, I don't know, Procter & Gamble is also a lot, but so really a lot they put in advertisement. And when you have a company which get advertisement for free because then it's hard. So I don't know how the future will look like, but we have here in Germany very negative press about the Tesla in the last, I would say, 1 year. So that they say they are almost bankrupt and they don't have enough money. I don't see Elon Musk go down in the next 5 to 6 years. I think Money-wise, they're absolutely fine
Yeah.
because they have another big advantage, and that is people. When you are working for Tesla, you don't get the most money, but you get a branding name.
Yeah.
It's the same when you're working for the top four, like Amazon or
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's very good on your CV when
Yeah.
you work for Tesla, when you work,
Yeah.
because it's like when they say you are worthy to work for this company, then you're
Yeah.
good. We have here in Aachen Ego.
Yeah.
Ego is also not paying the most amount of money,
Yeah.
but because I spoke to a person which was working there, and he's basically working from the beginning.
Mhm.
But it's a good branding name here in
Yeah.
Aachen, so they get a lot of people who are applying for the job, so they don't need to pay the
Correct.
site, but you basically get very good people,
Yeah.
and Tesla also get very good people. And now you have different problem. VW has 600,000 people
Yeah.
working all over the world for VW.
Yeah.
Tesla has, I don't know, 50,000 or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So last year's was 36, but
Yeah.
now it's 50,000 or something like that. And when you have only 1/10
Correct.
of the people,
Yeah.
it's way easier to get innovations done because speed is an issue.
Yeah.
And here in Germany we have the fuel burning engines.
Mhm.
Most of the time, and we have expertise in this area.
Mhm.
But like you described, it's not the expertise of tomorrow and not for electric cars. So people are worried about their jobs.
Yeah.
And when you are worried about your jobs, you don't want to go 100% into the new direction,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
self-driving cars,
Yeah,
like
yeah. Yeah.
electric cars,
Electric
and
cars.
this is slowing the company from the inside, because you
Yeah.
have forces inside the company who are self-protecting about their
Yeah.
jobs, but
Yeah.
they don't realize if they don't change it,
Yeah.
all go.
Yeah.
But everybody's thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
That, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But this is a big problem
Yeah.
with where I think I don't see a good future for the German car industry
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it will.
I think the manufacturing they're good with Industry 4.0 and the automation and the manufacturing thing. I think they're a bit better.
Yeah, but
With like the IT, like the internet and the tech part of it, I think is a bit.
But the manufacturing doesn't matter in the future, because an electric car only
Yeah.
has
Very few
20%
parts.
of the parts
Yeah.
what
Yeah, yeah.
normal. Here in Aachen, we are building an Ego car with 250 people or something
Yeah.
like that. I don't know exactly the number, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not hard to build an electric car when a professor from a university can build up a company which is
Yeah.
building electric cars.
Yeah.
This should tell there is not so much skill.
Yeah.
So of course we have areas, but the Chinese are also going full blown in the direction of
Yeah.
building machines. So I don't see
Yeah.
very good future in the technologies we are leading right now. And of course we need to change in the technologies of tomorrow. Tomorrow would be basically technology for how to creating a battery,
Yeah.
which has a lot of energy. This would be
Yeah.
a possibility. Also technology is, but technology as always, winner takes it all. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
difficult.
So the next section would be moving on to the education aspects of it. Considering this is going to be a reality, how do you think the education should change now to meet certain requirements of the future?
I don't think that you can change the education system at all, because political parties here in Germany try to change it almost every 5 years. When there's a new party which is rising to the power, they say we change education. But you can't change education in Germany, because education is done in each country state, in each state separately. So each state has its own right to basically produce education plans and stuff like that. And because of that, you don't have one global rule for that. And so I don't think that education is changing here in Germany at all. and the next thing is, like I said before, we have a very old population in Germany.
Yeah.
So the teachers have no clue about technology.
Yeah.
So how do you train people on the newest technology when they have no clue and don't want to learn this? Because this is something you start on ground zero. When your kids are way more advanced than you are, so you starting with a deficit on a topic you not pretty knowable.
Yeah.
This is a good point, not going in that direction. So, but I don't think it's necessary. I think everybody can learn everything over the internet on his own. The internet has all information, and when you study all day everything in the internet, you will become one of the smartest people in the country.
I did that. Like right now, my master thesis is involving AI algorithms in computational mechanics. I just did 3 courses on Coursera. I had the LinkedIn certification, and they were really good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was like teaching stuff to my professor based on what I've learned in those online courses. Yeah.
Exactly. So because of the education, you can basically get the knowledge from every source.
Yeah.
There will be a big gap because people who are smart in the past, they were smart in their field, but today when people are smart and they're using technology like courses, they're getting even smarter in a very short period of time. So the gap between the normal people, like working as a cashier, and a data scientist or this is increasing because when you are working as a cashier or working in a restaurant, you don't go in the internet and learn stuff on your own. And people who are in the technology space did it from the beginning, basically. They looked in the internet, oh, that's new, I want to learn this programming language, I want to learn that one. And they have a huge advantage, and this advantage is growing because they are using it already now, and it takes a while until you learn something. So when you don't start on the right moment of time, you have no chance. Like I said, with the Cadra, with bus drivers and with all the drivers, basically, taxi drivers, cab drivers, they have no chance when they're not starting yet, because when everybody tries to move, it's too late. There's no chance. So today we are living in a society that people who are willing to put in the work can rise to the top on their own. This was never possible before, and I think it's great, but people need to come from their own. So for example, I got a patent granted for a new technology, and I'm building electronic circuits and basically designing it, then let it it will be factored in China, and then send it over, and then I test it here, and I learned all the stuff from the internet. And today I have master degree to do a second master degree, but my beginning of school, I was on so we have 3 levels. We have Hauptschule, Realschule, Gymnasium. So I only went to Realschule, and I had an average grade of 3 point something, which is not good. So I was on the low bottom, not bottom, but
low percentile.
Yes, exactly, of my class. And internet saved me in that, because like I said before, everybody can use that internet, and when you use it every day on working on that and try to improve your skills, you are way better than somebody else. What I also see I'm in a lot of machine learning groups on Facebook and stuff like that. There are not many Germans. That there are many other countries which are participating in that and learning this stuff, and they will be better. Of course, when you working on algorithm for 5 years and you have knowledge on that, and then somebody starts on that, of course the one with the experience will be better. And so I think education is nothing which will change, but the internet is changing everything. So
we can be responsible for educating ourselves.
Yes,
absolutely. I think that's the only solution.
I can imagine a scenario where in the universities, like we also have right now in RWTS, right, all the lectures are available online.
Some of them.
Yes,
I was very disappointed.
yes, yes.
Some of them.
That was the idea by Sal from Khan Academy.
Yeah.
Like he said that you should have access to lectures before in video format. You only come to schools and universities to solve exercises because that's where you really understand stuff.
Yeah.
That's where you test your understanding. Like I can imagine in the future that we don't have, like say, a full day college or a full day school. We only go there to test our understanding by exercise, or let's say,
Practicing.
executing
Yeah.
the exercises.
Of course, it's when you are at home and you are not self-motivated, it will have the opposite effect. You need to have some kinds of motivation to achieve that. And that's what I see today. Many countries in Africa or India or other countries, people don't have the luxury living that what many people in the West having, but they see a solution with education, with computer science and technology to get better lifestyle than they have right now, and they have the motivation. When I learn this now, I can make a lot of money with that, and then I have a lifestyle which I could only dream for before. And when you have this hunger for getting this stuff, then you are way more motivated than when you say, I have everything here what I need basically, and then you are not willing to learn and willing to put in the hours to do it.
Yeah, so maybe we should
Bring it to the name.
so to the last question. The last question from me would be like, what are the reliable and like credible sources to make yourself digitally literate? Because you mentioned digital literacy in your book, because that's something that someone should be aware of. Right?
So what I wrote is basically the knowledge about digitalization and also so how society changing, what are new technologies like artificial intelligence, and regarding to the credible source, I think YouTube is a great credible source because people, when we take a look and see how many people are subscribing to it, watching it, then of course they could spread fake stuff and stuff, but most of the time the people who have the channels with many subscribers also giving a lot of education and value. So I would just go with clicks and follow.
I think the education doesn't have fake. The education part of YouTube still has like real stuff. There's nobody's faking the education part of YouTube.
Yeah, but it could be. I mean, like for example, the flat Earth.
I was about to say that.
But it's really easy to test.
I was just about to say that.
But it's really easy to test those. Right? If someone is teaching F is equal to 2 MA, then it's really easy to see that.
Maybe we should get someone from Flat Earth on the podcast, just for contrast. But
one of the things that you can do to make yourself digitally literate is to read Werner's book.
I really enjoyed it, and what I loved was the fact that there's no predictions, and it's just based on what is being done right now, and that is enough to be a wake-up call. I mean, if you don't realize stuff without seeing what's happening now, I mean, then there's
I don't like to be in a prediction business because then you can be wrong. But when you are there, this is a technology that exists today. There is no argument about it. But when you can always make say, okay, what happens if you use this technology on a broad space and which implication does it have? And in my book, it's for example also so that I don't use only artificial intelligence. I use 4 core technologies, which many don't relate to. They say they hear about robots and they hear about artificial intelligence, but that basically we have completely different laws in the internet, in the digital space, like in the human atom-based world. This and these rules have an effect, and you also need to understand that. But in order to answer your question, what I think is many Facebook groups for I think artificial intelligence are great. You're seeing a lot of interesting content, because this is also when people are sharing that content, it's more easier that's in your timeline, and so you often see only the highlights of that. So you can learn a lot of that, but I think YouTube and is one of the best. I think 2 Minute Paper is a great channel, which basically described a lot of AI stuff. What is AI do? And it's easy to understand because it's only 2 minutes, 4 minutes. It not goes into detail, but shows a nice perspective about what's possible. And but it's always important to see what are you using at home and how your life is changing. When you're doing a lot with your smartphone, then it's easy to take a look, how could this be used in my own personal, in my own professional environment? How can I use it in my job? How can I getting better in that? So.
And so if you're listening to the podcast, we all advise you to read Werner's book, Job Disruption. It's available in Amazon. I didn't see an English copy of the book.
I didn't release it yet. Okay. So but
because
I sent it to you, but I didn't release.
I wanted to share it on this Andrew Yang's Reddit page as well, because there were like a lot of discussions about this, and I was asking him like I can't find the Amazon.
No, it's I didn't publish it yet. Okay. I will do that, but
but you can also learn German and then read it.
Yeah, that would be a better option.
Be self-motivated.
So reason I didn't publish it is because it's also very German based. So from the examples, what I put a lot of German background information. I go on German laws. I go on EU law, which is not probably the same in the United States. Of course, I cover also United States, but most likely most of the time I cover German.
Yeah, that's true.
And we would like your autograph in this book.
Of course.
Let me just.
One day you'll be so famous.
One day you'll be so famous, and I'll be the.
No, he'll just have a robot sign. That's the future. And I think it was
So what did you like most? Or you said you knew already a lot, but what did you like most, or what was new for you?
Honestly, not much. Because my master thesis is on using GAN, so I'm pretty aware. I've been reading the news and all, but I like the way it was structured. Like I can see someone, like if somebody who's a cashier picks this book up, it's simple, it's very clear, and it points to examples which people can see in their real life, like the McDonald's, this thing, the Vapiano, this thing. So I like that. The choice of the way it was structured was this thing, but that was just me because I already knew this thing. So that was really good.
I like the thing about the AlphaGo, where it just destroyed the champion of Go. Like I've played the Go game, I sucked at it, but still it was a very difficult game. Chess I can understand, but Go is completely different thing. So, and the second AlphaGo, the second version defeated the first one 100 to nothing, I believe. So it was like
exponential growth. That's
so if it can be done in a gaming environment like that, its potential can be utilized in pretty much any real world, solving any real world problem, or creating more problems. So that is something we should.
Of course. I mean, it always has a downside, and people. I mean, there are many people who like privacy and keep information to themselves. And like the previous example I used with Parkinson, that people basically get called out on their sicknesses just because of an audio.
Correct.
It will be hard for people.
I mean, there was also this algorithm which could look at your profile photo on the dating app and tell you whether you're homosexual or heterosexual with 96% or some 90 plus accuracy.
Yeah, so it will have big changes in society, and so I wrote the book basically on for people basically to which are not in the technology base or wanted to have a broad overview to see what is coming, because many people have no idea what's coming, and I mean, not people who are working in technology, they have kind of an idea, but normal people don't interesting in that stuff, and
it's like that Batman dialogue, right? Storm's coming.
But winter is coming. Right?
Yeah, the winter is
Winter is
coming. I haven't seen Game of
Yeah.
Thrones.
Yeah.
But
Take a photo.
Yeah, we'll take a photo, and we thank you for
spending
spending your time.
And
Really enjoyed the conversation.
we really learned a lot, and I hope a lot of people can also get that information
Yeah.
from you.
yeah.